Alright guys, this is my lunch, so we're gonna, one, save your time, and two, try to make it so I can eat lunch. This is 1 point perspective. I should have made a sign. I'm sorry. Our objective is to demonstrate persistence when we're learning new skills and to demonstrate craftsmanship in our artwork and cite evidence supporting our craftsmanship. Persistence is going to come into play more tomorrow when we're practicing these skills. Demonstrating craftsmanship is what you really want to focus on during this video because you're going to be learning a lot of vocabulary words and tiny little tricks that will help you with details and with creating a three-dimensional illusion. So we are going to do a quick intro to vocabulary. I'll show you how to draw a space, how to draw a form. We will review our vocabulary so you can get all the definitions, and then I'm going to tell you what to expect for bell work. Be looking for important details to pay attention to when you are drawing in 1 point perspective. So, these are your vocabulary words. Most of them you should have from class today. You should already have 2D and 3D. Know that those are short for 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions, and you also have illusion. And we are demonstrating our persistence in our sketchbooks, which we will be using during class. You can get these vocabulary words ready in your logbook if you would like. Some of them have relatively long definitions though, so it might be better just to keep them in mind to see if you can pick up the definitions as we go. We have linear perspective, parallel line, vertical line, horizontal line, converging line, diagonal line, vanishing point, and horizon line. I'm going to assume that you guys already know what parallel, vertical, horizontal, and diagonal means. You might also know what a horizon line is. So the big new ones are going to be linear perspective, converging line, and vanishing points. All right. So let's begin drawing a space. Now it always helps to have tools. The tools that I'm going to use today are a ruler and a pencil. These are tools, not toys, and as long as we treat them as tools, the tools that they are, they will serve us for a very long time. So when we're using these, we just want to remember that the purpose of a ruler is to help us draw straight lines. It can also help us measure, though we're not measuring today. So a lot of your straight edges will be pieces of plastic tomorrow because a lot of middle schoolers do treat rulers like toys, and then you can't get a straight line out of them anymore. All right, so to begin, I am going to very lightly draw a horizon line. The horizon line tends to be at eye level. We'll talk a little bit more about what eye level means tomorrow because you're going to want to see my pencil in relation to my face. Notice I drew it very lightly. This is because this is not a line that is going to be permanent. It's a temporary line. On my horizon line, I am going to put a vanishing point. The vanishing point is super duper important. Without it, things can start looking a little wonky. Next, I am going to draw the back wall. So I'm going to make sure, I'm going to do it lightly again. While I draw it, when I set my ruler up, I am checking to see that my ruler, or my straight edge, is parallel to the horizon line as well as to the edges of my paper. I know you can't see the edges of my paper on the top and bottom, but you can see the horizon line. I do that by checking to see if this distance is about the same as that distance, and if it's not, I need to fix it. So you can also use the edge of your paper to do this, especially since we are now what's called perpendicular, or creating right angles with our vertical lines, so the edge of your paper is really good. So I check from the ruler to the edge on the top and the ruler to the edge on the bottom, and those do look to be about equal, so I'm going to put my line in. And then I am going to do another one over here. I am noticing now that, here, this is gonna help. I'm noticing that the space between my ruler and the edge of my paper on the top and bottom are not equal, so I'm going to fix that. Do this too. Oh, so much paper. There we go. 1, 2, looks about right. And there's the back of my wall. You're gonna notice that my vanishing point is not in the middle of my wall. That's okay. It's just going to give us, it's gonna make it look like we are not standing in the middle of the hallway. We're standing off to one side. Next, I'm gonna draw some converging lines. These lines, they exist in real life. In real life, they're parallel to each other, which means if they were to travel on and on and on forever, they would never, ever, ever touch each other. When I draw them now, now you're going to notice that I'm drawing them diagonally, so they're moving up and to the side at the same time, which means if they did continue on forever, they would cross. This is an illusion, and it is what trips most people up when they are creating a three-dimensional space on a two-dimensional piece of paper. Our logical brain gets in the way. It says, now wait a minute, I know those lines are parallel to each other, and then it overrides our spatial way of thinking, which says, yeah, but they don't look parallel, and we end up drawing them parallel, and it gets really bizarre. So there's my hallway. I am going to darken the lines I want to keep now, which are here. At this point, you can add any details you want to the back wall. Maybe there's a door back here, maybe there's a painting back here. Maybe there's a little bit of what we call molding on here. Maybe we don't actually see that line. And I was not paying attention to details, otherwise I would have drawn that lighter. So it would have been cleaner when I erased it. Something that I can reflect on later, right? So now we want to figure out how to get the ceiling tiles, the floor tiles, and all the wall stuffs, the cinder blocks in. I might as well just go ahead and erase these guys too. Since they're extraneous or extra, they were guidelines, I don't need them. Notice I'm leaving my vanishing point there because I still need it. So to do the tiles, I'm going to start with the lines that move through space away from me. And every time I move my ruler, I'm going to check to make sure that I am hitting the vanishing point. Seems weird because we know these lines do not radiate like this in real life, but in a drawing, when we're creating an illusion, it turns out they do. So there's my converging lines in the floor. And then I also have a series of horizontal lines that are parallel to each other, as well as the top and bottom of my paper. So every time I draw them, I want to compare them to my bottom line here and the edge of my paper. Now, I also know that objects appear smaller the further away from me they get, which means the tiles that are closer to the back of the wall or that look further away from me are going to look smaller. So I'm going to put those lines closer together. So what you should be noticing is as I come towards the bottom of my paper, or as I get further from the vanishing point, my horizontal lines are further apart. So I have a nice illusion of a floor. And what's cool is even the converging lines, since they tilt, it causes the width to get smaller the closer it gets to the vanishing point automatically. Okay. Now I can add my ceiling tiles. Notice I am checking the vanishing point. Boom. Every single time. And it looks like we need another tile in there. Vanishing point. Ta-da. Right. If I want to put the lights in, those would be horizontal lines. Well, I'm not parallel to the top. At least you can't see it. I'm not parallel to the top of my paper there. You see it? It's shorter over here, so I'm gonna scooch my ruler. Looks like I'm drawing over on this side. And we can call those lights. I think our lights in the hallway have a thick border around them. And then they continue the whole way to the edge of the wall. And I'm relying on my memory here, but I'm pretty sure that the tiles are actually square, which means halfway up each of these lights we would have another horizontal line that is parallel to the top and bottom of my paper, as well as all of the other horizontal lines on my page. So now I've got a ceiling and a floor. Now instead of doing the cinder blocks like we have in the hall, I'm going to show you how to draw a door and a window. So we're going to be working with vertical lines and converging diagonal lines again. What trips people up here is number one, the vanishing point again, because they know that the top of a door is actually straight in real life, but because this is an illusion, it looks slanted. People also, we know logically that the sides of the door are of equal length. So people like to make the mistake of tilting their vertical lines. So they have a diagonal line then that is not a converging line, it's not going to the vanishing point. Instead of saying, hey, logical brain, be quiet. I know this is vertical. I'm checking with my other vertical lines in the edge of my paper. You draw it the whole way down to the floor. So now I have a door. That vertical edge is really important, and it's actually pretty hard to get. It's a detail that you want to pay very close attention to. Beep, beep. If we want windows in the doors, part of that window is on the wall, so it's moving away from us, which means we use converging lines that go to the vanishing point. And then we will use our vertical lines again. So I'm not necessarily matching the edges of these lines up. Instead, I am going to the corner of one of those lines, making sure my ruler is vertical, and then connecting. Because if I have any extra converging line on there, if I was paying attention to details and drew it light enough first, I am easily able to erase the extra lines. All right, let's draw just a normal window over here. Vanishing point, because this is a converging line, it's moving away from me in space. This is going to be a big window. So let's say I just drew that a little too long. Notice that it's light. So instead of connecting the edges, because I'm noticing that I'm no longer parallel, I am going to straighten my ruler out, bump it up against an edge, draw the line, because I can always erase that extra. always erase the extra.